Hi there boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Random Geek channel. And today I'll be reviewing arguably the MVP of the scooter world, the Ninebot Segway Max G30 electric scooter. Firstly, if you are new to the channel, welcome, and a heads up, this is a video and ride review of the scooter. If you're after an unboxing and first impressions, or a super comprehensive deep dive of this product, please refer to my previous videos in this playlist. Here I will try to condense everything that I've discovered and experienced after extensively riding the scooter over the past couple of months. So can this 800 Australian dollar scooter keep up with the best of them? Let's find out. First of the cab is build quality and design. Ninebot Segway and its sister company Xiaomi were initially the pioneers of the eScooter category, first starting off with the M365, and this pedigree shows in almost every single aspect of the G30. It is clear that the G30 is a direct successor from the M365 Pro, given its design language, namely the solid build, the base bottom battery, the rear drive hub motor, and the stem located hinge system. These are welcome changes given the issues that I saw with its predecessor, the ES2 and the ES4 scooter, which was very top heavy with the stem located battery, and this was worse if you had the extended battery. The bottom base locked and pin system that was secured by fragile rubber entrapment bungs that will break and fall loose over time, and the twitchy front motor that will attempt to throw you over the handlebars if you slammed onto the brakes too aggressively. The combination hinge and clamp system in scooter is further enforced by a slide and lock mechanism, which is an amazing improvement over the original version seen in the M365 models. It feels solid with no flexing, there's no squeaks or movement even when hammering the scooter hard. I'll be very interested to see how this holds up over time given issues I had with the original M365 and also with the ES2 and ES4 scooters, and especially after I've had a few hundred kilometers on the scooter already. I've had no problems since then, but we shall see. Something that you will hear me constantly talking about in this review is how solid the construction of the scooter is. And when I mean solid, I mean solid. As solid as how you would expect a dense and refined block of metal should feel. This is one scooter. If you were unfortunate enough to crash or fall over, it'll pretty come out of the end with just a few scratches and bumps, and it would be less worse for wear than the actual riding afterwards. The scooter only has two very consistent looking welds connecting the riding stem and the rim sealing the base of the scooter to the battery compartment. Besides from the yellow accents and the reflective highlights, this unit is forged from aluminium and is handsomely painted in matte black. The only plastics involved are the OLED control unit, the front wheel sidebars, and both mud guards back and front. The riding platform is covered in a grey coloured texturized rubberized mat that feels slightly squishes and provides decent grip when dry, but unfortunately can get a little bit slippery when wet. Personally, I would have preferred some form of grip tape to combat this, but then again, this is an argument whether you should be riding in the rain in the first place. The scooter is rated at an IPX 5 rating, so it will perform in light rain, but an important disclaimer, and this goes for all scooters, most scooters are water resistant only and are actually not waterproof. A common misconception is you can ride these devices in the rain for an extended period of time is just wrong. It only takes a few drops of water to get into the ECU or the battery or the BMS, and you could be looking at a short. The G30 combats this with decent welds, a sealed bottom battery compartment, encased hub motors and disc brakes, and a nicely built control lever units that you have to attach yourself out of the box with 6 M5 screws. Water ingress is very unlikely to happen riding, but riding during a storm, personally myself, I believe it sucks and it's slippery as hell, so I wouldn't recommend that you do it. The scooter is powered by a 350 watt rear hub brushless motor that peaks at 700 watts. So these are rather pedestrian numbers given the 4-digit watt-hour motors and dual motor systems in current hyper scooters, but this reflects well its budget commuter scooter category. Remember, this is a 40% increase in power from the ES4's 250 watt motor from the year before, and all for the same price. The rear motor is responsive and accelerates quickly to full pelt in sports mode in under 5 seconds, and performs admirably on normal hills up to 20%, but will struggle on higher grades and if you are a heavier rider. Moreover, the G30 is capped at 25 kilometers an hour, so that's 15.5 miles per hour, which is a decent clip for a community unit, but will feel limited for those who need a bit more speed. Sadly, this seems to be an artificial software lock placed on the firmware by Ninebot to conform with local regulations, as this same scooter will have different max speeds depending on the region. Thankfully, this can be circumvented with a simple app that can be downloaded, allowing the user to boost top speed and riding characteristics such as acceleration and regenerative braking. Such custom profiles which will boost the speed up to over 30 km an hour or 18.6 miles per hour, and can increase acceleration closer to 4.5 seconds at full pelt. As always, please refer to your local regulations and state laws, as you will be making this decision at your own risk and possibly voiding your warranty in the process. Personally, since I'm not a speed demon and I find 25 km an hour speed limit rather enjoyable, I haven't made this leap and I'd rather not take the hit on the range. And speaking of range, and by golly the range, this is rated at 65 kilometers, so that's 40.4 miles, and it's an absolute killer. Although some might say that other scooters can hit the 100 kilometer marks, a prime example being the eMove Cruiser. Please keep in mind that this model preceded all models back then when it launched all the way back in 2019. Back then, no scooter had broken the 30 kilometer mark, with Ninebot's own Segway ES4 leading the charge at 45 kilometers, with the additional battery upgrade, mind you. So when the G30 launched a year later with a 65 kilometer range, it was a revelation, and it rightly so made other manufacturers take notice. Once again, you can quote other scooters now surpass this, but I can't stress enough, not at this price point. A key example, as I said before, the eMove Cruiser from earlier. This is listed at 2,400 Australian dollars at the moment, which is 3 times the price of this model. As always, the listed range and the real world range is highly variable on many factors such as rider weight, temperature, ride style, ride mode, surface, elevation, etc. etc. Nevertheless, even with my limited riding for an 85 kilogram rider, so I'm actually 15 kilos above the ideal rider weight that they use for these range tests. Even riding on sports mode, I managed to just get a tad under 30 kilometers an hour with a 50% battery remaining, and after that point I was left astounded. To place this in a real world perspective, if you were using the scooter as intended as a last mile form of mobility, you could technically get away with charging this probably once a week. By the way, I am going to be doing a range test later up the track, so watch this space for that video. A nice little segue, and then pun intended, let's talk about the battery, which is a massive 550 watt hours. So this is a dramatic increase from the 370 watt hour battery in the previous ES4 scooter, and that's even including the extended battery modification that you could buy. This is one of the reasons why the G30 has been able to boast about its incredible range, and paired with the really efficient rear hub motor, this is a marriage made in heaven. So the battery is situated under the ride platform, and the heavy weight of the battery and the BMS provides a nice low center of gravity and improves stability while riding. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find out what type of lithium-ion battery Ninebot has used, and Ninebot has been relatively hush-hush about the specifications of the 865 cells used in the scooter. So if you guys are aware which cells that they're using, please leave us a comments below. I'll be very curious to find out. A major upgrade now is the integrated AC adapter in the scooter itself. So charging can be achieved without carrying a cumbersome brick adapter, and the provided lightweight Mickey Mouse port cable is really all you really need to charge the scooter. As the cable provided is a rather ubiquitous 3-prong Mickey Mouse, even if you lose this, it can be easily replaced. You can pretty much find these in any electronics retailer or buy it online. So if you are as absent-minded as I am and lose the cable, it's not too much of an actual fuss. You will notice that the ports are protected by a plastic cover, which has a rubber casket lining. And this is a step up from the usual rubber bung system used in most scooters. I am, however, very curious to see how long this port will last, given it relies on a spring-mounted system, which seems to be based on stainless steel. So after a couple hundred kilometers, I'm curious to see how long it will last after heavy exposure to rain and dust. Keen observers will note that there are 2 charging ports, one the Mickey Mouse cable port, and the other being the older barrel plug type. And no, to answer your future question, no, there's no dual charging trickery here, so you either choose one or the other. The Mickey Mouse port will charge a 42 watt battery at roughly 120 to 140 watts, while the barrel plug is compatible with the older ES2 and ES4 power adapters, which charge roughly at 70 watts. So the former will charge the battery from flat to full in 6 hours, and the latter will charge it overnight in roughly 12 to 13 hours respectively. A handy inclusion while charging is that the OLED panel will display the current charge level as you charge, and it will display that as a percentage, so you can easily monitor the state of charge without having to open the app. So this is a very nice addition here. As for the economics of charging, at the current energy prices in Australia at roughly 25 cents a kilowatt, a full battery charge will put you roughly back 14 cents per charge. Or if you were going to calculate the total cost of annual charging, this is roughly the cost of an annual my morning cup of coffee in the morning. So even better if you're green inclined as I am and you've got solar panels on your roof, your cost essentially goes down to 0. A nice touch with the scooter is the increased riding platform, which is much improved from the last iteration. And once again, this feels solid, but it also provides a larger, wider base. For riders with smaller feet, you can actually stand with both feet side by side. And for larger riders with larger feet, you can either ride goofy or regular, and in both instances, it's both comfortable and stable. Additionally, the riding stem is roughly about 2 inches higher than the ES4, which makes it a more relaxing and secure ride for taller riders. Obviously, Ninebot has taken notes for the redesign for the international release. As for the ride feel, I find this scooter handles well and the ride feel is really consistent and smooth. It glides over bumps with ease with its large 10-inch pneumatic tires, which is fitted for both rear and front. In the advertising and the promotion, Ninebot claim these are self-healing tires, which is obviously marketing speak for pneumatic tires filled with slime sealant. So this is a welcome addition, and I believe this should be an industry standard. Slime can potentially save you from small punctures and snake bites, and can be the difference between you making it back home or pumping it like a plebeian back to safety. Interesting, Ninebot went with the pneumatic tires on both sets of these wheels. The current industry standards is mainly shifting to solids in the rear, given that 90% of blowouts will occur on the rear tire. There are aftermarket third-party tires for solids and hollow tires available, so options are there. And this also brings up one of the major flaws in the scooter is accessibility and repairability. Regrettably, the Ninebot has inherited the limited and frustrating difficult process to access the tires in case of repair and replacement from the 365 and the ES4. There are countless videos online on how to replace these scooters on these models, and the process is very similar for the G30. Personally myself, having had to change the tyre on the original M365, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. This is further exacerbated by the addition of an enclosed mechanical disc brake assembly that complicates matters. Technically, the enclosed disc brakes are supposedly maintenance-free, given that they limit water access, but brakes will wear out over time and will need to be serviced or replaced. Given that most scooters will only really loosen or tighten the brake line on the scooter to personal preference, unless you have access to the official repair manual, imagine having to pop the tyre, changing bearings, and being able to fix up a banged up disc brake. Word advice, I would probably factor in a service cost with the purchase of all scooters, given that there are specialized scooter stores around everywhere and they're a dime a dozen. Most sites will only charge you a small fee to do the servicing and repairs, and in my opinion this is definitely the way to go. Ride quality, as stated before, is rather utilitarian, but maybe a bit sterile once you get acclimatized to the maximum speed. The G30 glides over smaller bumps and different terrain with ease on its practical 10-inch tyres, but its performance is marred by the surprise omission of suspension. Even the earlier and lower price ES4 series scooters had basic front and rear suspension. However, after riding the ES series extensively over the last 2 years, personally I can attest that having pneumatic tyres leads to a much smoother and comfortable ride than having suspension alone. In terms of throttle response, ride is pretty anemic on eco and normal modes, but really pulls its punch when it's activated on sports mode. Acceleration is quick and responsive, which is only really marred by the regulatory limited top speed. Throttle is controlled by a thumb activated switch similar to prior models and allows very minute and accurate speed control. Also make note that the electric motor will only activate after an initial foot pump, so once the speed increases over 3 km an hour, this is a considerate safety feature that makes sure that scooter doesn't fly off if you accidentally activate the throttle while standing around. Cruise control can also be made available once turned on in the app, and once activated, once you maintain the speed on the throttle for at least 5 seconds, you'll get a confirmation of 2 loud beeps and cruise control will be activated. Brake control, however, is a different matter and probably my biggest contention with the G30. Unlike prior models that use a combination of a very evenly controlled thumb activated brakes and friction brakes in the rear, the G30 has switched to a finger brake lever mechanical disc brake system and a regenerative brake combination. I personally don't mind the removal of the foot activated brake from the ES4 series, which was downright dangerous at high speeds, leading to speed wobbles, and if you stepped on it too hard, the back would slide underneath you if you did not activate it correctly. The mechanical brake really indicates error where Ninebot has tried to cut costs. Hydraulic brakes are now the norm now, and they do allow for a much more nuanced response. It's like having V-brakes on an old-fashioned bike. They're functional, but just not the best. Also, the use of a finger trigger is puzzling, as response times are much slower than using a thumb system. Furthermore, the braking seems to be inconsistently split between both systems. Unlike the regenerative braking on earlier models that allowed fine scaling of the braking, but the mechanical disc brake only activates first and only after the trigger is to press with considerable force, and then further force is needed to a secondary stop on the trigger to activate the regenerative braking system. Essentially, this boils down to a very abrupt and inconsistent braking from top speed. Even though you can choose between 2 different regenerative modes in the app, I really couldn't find the sweet spot to get the braking system just right, even after playing around with the tension wire. However, at full tilt, once fully triggered, the G30 will come to a complete stop in a respectable 4 to 5 meters, which is fantastic in an emergency, but just remember, don't expect it to be smooth. As you can see, not everything is all roses with the G30. Another criticism is the top weight limit of the scooter at 100 kilograms or 220 pounds for our empirical friends at home. This is mainly due to two reasons: the 350 watt motor power limit and the strength of the axle. Given that all round the G30 is built like a tank, it is rather surprising that a larger motor wasn't selected, or an axle assembly that could deal with larger rider wasn't accommodated. I'm rather flabbergasted that the functionality of the scooter was designed for the commuter market, and it was also targeted at a larger Western audience, which we do tend to be physically larger than normal. So it kind of misses the mark that most people in Western countries are over 100 kilograms. And this is the norm rather than the exception. So on top, you have a very handsomely designed and flush controller unit, and it's covered in a glass housing, which has a very bright OLED display. The controller clearly displays your current speed, riding mode, light mode, battery capacity in 20% segments, Bluetooth connectivity, and warning indicators in case of any faults. The battery capacity is read out in 10% increments, with the 10% charge levels appearing as a flashing bar between solid segments. The display is nice and bright even in full sunlight, and it also automatically dims in low light to not compromise your night vision during night rides. The handlebars are your standard rubberized affair. They're not flash but functional, and are relatively comfortable during long rides. These are readily switchable for aftermarket solutions, so if they don't tickle your fancy, you can easily fix this by buying your own parts. Unfortunately, the handlebars do not fold in to slim the footprint once folded, and given that the G30 is relatively large in comparison to its competitors, so in terms of measurements, it measures at 167 millimeters by 474 millimeters by 534 millimeters when folded. This could be a problem if space is limited. So essentially, it was easily slide under most work tables, train and bus seats, and into a car boot. But you will be out of luck if you're trying to fit this into a personal locker. Additionally, at 19.1 kilograms or 42.1 pounds, this is borderline portable. So this is just heavy enough to be carried with one hand, but not comfortably enough if you are going to be lugging this around for long periods of times, or if you had a large flight of stairs to bring this up. Luckily, you can roll the scooter on wheel and drag it around like a piece of luggage, but it is rather cumbersome and not very fun. A nice addition is the inclusion of a twist bell on the left hand side, a feature that was missing in early models, and this is a safety must. The only issue that I had with it is it seems to be rather loosely fitted onto the handlebar. I'm just not sure if it's just my unit, but it did seem to rattle around a bit when I was riding. It wasn't too big of an issue at high speeds with the wind whipping around, but it was noticeable at slower speeds and during acceleration. Sticking with safety, in the lighting, gone are the bottom halo lights, reminiscent of your Need for Speed Underground days, and the only really light you get is only a top front stem integrated light and a back brake light system. The front light is plenty bright at roughly 300 lumens, but the spread is rather limited, so an additional mounted light is highly recommended. And as you can see in this footage, this is something that I've done myself to increase visibility both in front and in my periphery. The rear light system is bright, and it's automatically switched on when the scooter is turned on, You can also change it to actually set it to blink or shine brighter when the brakes are activated inside the app. As for the lack of the running lights on the side of the base, yes, I wish they were present to increase visibility, but given the price point of the scooter, I can probably give Ninebot a pass. Last but not least, let's talk about the app. The Segway Ninebot app, and you can download that from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, and it's currently up to version 5 and has been updated for an international release. Remember, you do have to sign up and you do need to set up an account, but after that you can pretty much switch to whatever EV device that you're riding via a slide down menu. The options also in the app are also device sensitive and will only display options and custom functions specific to your scooter. So for example, the G30 will not display options to adjust halo lights or security locks like the ES4 scooter, because simply it does not have these functions. The app will also allow you to select your preferred regenerative braking levels, also activation of cruise control if you do not wish to do this manually via the throttle. You could also use the app to download and install firmware updates, and can track and log your rides as you go. It will also display the current battery percentage, predicted testing remaining, and the current odometer reading for the current vehicle. Additionally, you can also access the battery information such as exact state of charge, temperature, and any faults that the BMS has detected. Unfortunately, this version, the version 5 app, does not give you advanced battery information unlike the older versions of the app. And as hard as I tried, you cannot log into both versions of the app at once, so it's either one or the other. You try one, it will log you out of the other app. But what I can't fault about the app is the GPS tracking for the rides. So essentially, the G30 does not have a GPS built in, but logs via the app and uses your phone GPS. And the great thing is it matches up with other GPS readings with surprising accuracy. Take this with a grain of salt though, because this is highly dependent on your mobile phone's GPS accuracy, but in my results I was seeing less than a 0.5% variance in distant readings, even on longer rides over 30 kilometers. So I was really super impressed. Even on long rides I was probably only like out by about 100 meters, so really impressive. Remember, you do have to log onto this app to unlock this scooter initially, so the scooter doesn't limit you to 10 kilometers an hour in speed, and it won't continuously beep at you until you activate the app. However, if you are concerned about sending your information back to Ninebot or to a foreign country, you really only need to set up your account and activate the scooter once on startup, select your preferred settings, and then afterwards you don't really have to use the app thereafter, so it's really up to you. So after using this scooter for a couple of weeks, I could say that the app has pretty much worked flawlessly, with only one exception, and that is sometimes when I log in and while riding, it will send me notification in Chinese, and that's even after I've set my region to somewhere that isn't mainland China, in my case Australia, and it sometimes sends me notifications in Chinese, which is a bit weird. So hopefully I think this will be fixed in a later software update, so we shall wait and see. So there you have it, my wonderful people, my review of Ninebot Segway Max G30 e-scooter. I know this has been a long video, so thanks for watching, and hopefully you found this review useful if you're thinking of picking one of these up. So please note that the opinions and observation of this item is mine and mine alone. I am no way affiliated with the manufacturer or any retailer or supplier, and I have purchased this scooter with my own hard-earned money. In case that So in saying that, if you really want to, press that red subscribe button, and because that really helps my channel grow. These videos do take a lot of time, effort and money, and so if you feel that you want to support the channel, please press that button. Subscribing doesn't cost you a cent, and it would greatly appreciate it, and it motivates me to make more videos. As always, leave us a comment or question if you want to know more. Our little community is fantastic, and they do tend to provide answers that I don't even know the answers to. So I'm really appreciative of my current little community now, and thanks guys. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. So that's it. Random Geek out.